Hello and welcome to this first look exploring session looking at Thebais by Seneca, translated by Thomas Newton in 1581 to complete the set of 10 tragedies that were translated in the early years of the reign of Elizabeth. So this is sort of actually, sort of 15 years after the first brace. The first 9 were published separately, and then they collected them all together. And Thomas Newton went, I haven't done that one. So he did this one, and so we got a complete set. And this is our final Seneca as well for ourselves. So we have read a rush read for pretty much all of them because of the nature of the text. We've not hung around as much as we normally would. But yes, this is the end of an era as we complete our first pass at these. Reading today the happy, cheerful family life saga. Reading Oedipus is
Lynsey Beauchamp, actor in Kirkcaldy, Scotland.
Reading Jocasta, his wife and mother.
Rachael, actor on the East Coast of the U.S.
Reading Antigone, his daughter and sister.
Liza in London, which is pretty near the East Coast of Britain, but not quite.
Yes. Reading Nuntius is
Tommy Helsby from Brighton.
And I'm your host, Robert Crighton. I will be reading Polynices and occasionally just mentioning when we're in a different act. So without further ado, we're going to dive into Act 1. On stage are Oedipus and Antigone.
Dear daughter, under father blind a staff of steady stay, to weary sire a comfort great, and guide in all his way, and whom to have begotten I may glad and joyful be. Yet leave me now, thy hapless sire, thus plunged in misery. Why seek'st thou means still to direct my stalking steps aright? Let me, I pray thee, headlong slide in breakneck tumbling plight. I better shall and sooner find a way myself alone, to rid me out of all the thrall wherein I now am thrown, whereby both heaven shall eased be, and earth shall want the sight of me, vile wretch, whom guilt hath made a most abhorred wight. Alas, what little trifling trick hath hitherto been wrought by these my hands? What feat of worth or mastery have I sought? Indeed, they have me helped to pull mine eyes out of my head, so that ne sun ne moon I see, but life in darkness lead. And though that I can nothing see, yet is my guilt and crime both seen and known, and pointed at, woe worth the cursed time. Leave of thy hold, let loose thy hand, good daughter, let me go. Let faltering foot light where it will, let it this once be so. I'll trudge and run, I'll skid and range, I'll hasten to the hill of craggy steep Cithaeron, there I hope to work my will. Where erst Actaeon lost his life by strange and uncouth death, whom bawling dogs and hunting hounds bereft of vital breath, where once Agave bedlam-like ranged up and down the wood, with sisters her inspired all with Bacchus' raging mood, and pleasing well herself in that her fact and mischief done, pitched on a pole the grisly head of him that was her son, where Zethus with his ruffling crew of gallants young and stout, dragged, held, and pulled the hateful corpse of Dirce all about, where bushy, bloody brambles show which way the bull her drew, near where Dame Ino from a rock herself in sea down threw, so that poor mother, though she meant to avoid one fault by flight, Yet she thereby a worse procured, while like a seely white, she both herself and eke her son from Skyron hurled down, intending both herself and him in foaming sea to drown. Oh, happy, yea, thrice happy they that had so good an bap, and whom such mothers pitiful erst dawdled in their lap. Yet, yea, there is in these same woods another place to me, that's due by right, and rightly may me challenge as his fee. Where I am infant, out was laid all fortunes to abide. I thither will direct my course, of try what may betide. I'll neither stop ne stay till that I be arrived there. For guide I reck not, neither force for stumbling anywhere. Why stay I thus, like dastard drudge, to hasten unto it, sith well I know it lotted is to be my grave and pit? Let mine own Cytherean mount enjoy in quiet state. It is mine old and ancient bower appointed me by fate. I pray thee be not discontent that I should aged die, even there where life I should have lost in puling infancy. I yield me here with willing heart unto those tortures all that erst to me were due and which to others have befall. To thee I speak, O bloody mount, fierce, cruel, steep, and fell, as well in that thou sparest some, as that thou dost some quell. This carrion corpse, this sinful soul, this carcass here of mine, long time agone by right good law and property is thine. Now yet at length perform the hest that erst enjoined was to thee by those my parents both, now bring their doom to pass. My heart even longeth till I may so fully satisfy by this my death that their decree that glad I am to die. Oh, daughter, daughter, why wouldst thou thus keep me 'gainst my mind in this so vile incestuous love? Thou art but now too kind. Oh, stay me not, I thee desire. Behold, behold, I hear my father's ghost to bid me come apace, and not to fear. O Father mine, I come, I come. Now, Father, cease thy rage. I know, alas, how I abused my father's hoary age, who had to name King Laius, how he doth fret and fry to see such lewd disparagement, and none to blame but I, whereby the crown usurped is, and he by murder slain, and bastardly incestuous brood in kingly throne remain. And lo, dost thou not plainly see how he my panting ghost with raking paws doth hail and pull, which grieves my conscience most? Dost thou now see how he my face bescratcheth tyrant-wise? Tell me, my daughter, hast thou seen ghosts in such griefly guise?
I see and mark each thing full well. Good father, leave this mind, and take a better, if you can. From this yourself unwind.
Oh, what a beastly cowardice is in this breast of mine! Was I so stout and venturous in pulling out my iron? And shall all courage be employed against one only part of body, and from other parts shall valour wholly start? Let none of all these puling tricks, nor any feint excuse, thus daunt thy sprites. Let no delay to baseness thee induce. Dispatch at once. Why linger I, as one that's loath to die? Why live I? Is't because I can no longer mischiefs try? Yes, that I can, wretch though I be, and therefore tell I thee, dear daughter, that the sooner thou mightst hence depart from me, depart a maid and virgin hence, for fear of afterclaps, since villainy to mother showed it's good to doubt mishaps.
No force, no power, no violence shall make me to withdraw my duty unto thee, my sire, to whom I vow mine awe. I will not be dissevered, ne pulled from thy side. I will assist thee while that breath shall in this breast abide. My brothers twain, let them contend and fight for princely sway of wealthy Thebes, where whilom reigned King Labdach much a day. The greatest share and portion that I do look to have out of my father's kingdom is my father's life to save. Him neither shall Eteocles, my elder brother, take away from me, who now I force the Theban realm doth rake. Nay, Polynices, who as now is mustering men apace from Argos land, with full intent his brother to displace. No, though the world went all on wheels, though Jove should from above hurl flashing flakes upon the earth, all shall not quail my love. No, though his thumping thunderbolt, when we together stand, should light between us, whereas we are plighted hand in hand, yet will I never thee forsake, but held my handfast still. Therefore 'tis bootless, father dear, to countermand my will. In this my full resolved mind, forbid me, if you please. But surely I will be your guide in weal, woe, dole, and ease. And maugre all your sharp reproofs, though much against your mind, I will direct your steps and gait, that you your way may find. Through thick and thin, through rough and smooth, I will be at an inch, in hill and dale, in wood and grove, I'll serve at every pinch. If that you go where danger lies, and seek your own annoy, you shall well prove that I, to lead the dance, will not be coy. Advise yourself, therefore, of twain to which I guide shall be. My count is cast, I am full bent with you to live and die. Without me perish can you not, but with me well you may. It booteth not in other sort to move me aught to say. Here is an huge promontory that elbows into sea. Let us from hence throw down ourselves, and work our last decay, if that you will. Here is also a flinty rock beside, which, if you please, shall serve our turns. Here, beaten with the tide, be craggy cliffs. Let's go to them. Here runs a gulfy stream with force afore it driving stones as big as mountain beam. What say you? Shall we drench ourselves within this foamy flood? Go where you will, take which you list, do as you deem it good, conditionally that I may first receive the wound of death. I reck no whit, I ready stand to yield up vital breath. I neither draw you to nor fro, but even as best you think, so do, so deal. Would you so fain death's bitter cup to drink? My lord and father, take you death so great a boon to be. If that you die, this I assure, die first you shall me see. If life in show more pleasant seem, if so you rather choose, I am to wait upon you still, and never will refuse. But change this mind wherein you rest, take heart a grace, and show the noble magnanimity that erst in you did flow. Resist these pangs, subdue these dumps by valor of the mind. Let manly courage qualify these your affections blind. 'Tis great dishonor, thus to yield yourself to dolour thrall. No storm of adverse hap thus ought a prince's heart to appall.
This gear surmounteth far the reach of my capacity. I am astonished, I feel myself wrapped with an ecstasy. Is this not wonder, of so lewd and of so cursed a tree such fruit to grow, of graceless sire so good a child to see? Is it not strange that in a house disdained in villainy such noble show of towardness and virtuous gifts should lie? Let me some speech to thee direct, Dame Fortune. How haps this, that here my daughter so unlike to wretched father is, degenerating from his steps, and with such virtue fraught, as in her father's cursed house she never yet was taught? Is it, I pray thee, credible that out of me should spring such issue as should given be to any honest thing? No, truly, no, it cannot be. My fates full well I know. None such, unless to do me scathe and mischief would be so. To increase the heap of mine annoy, no strange effect shall want. Dame Nature in her creatures will new effects implant. The river shall return his course to fountain back again. Dame Phoebus' lamp shall bring the night, and night shall day remain, so that my grievous miseries with surplusage may grow. But be as 'tis, I for a while will play my part also, and show some spark of piety my fault to countervail. With murderous knife my woeful days to end I will not fail. The only help for Oedipus, the only safety, is to rid himself and so redeem that hellish fact of his. Let me take vengeance on myself for wrongs to father done, whose death is yet unexpiate by me his cursed son. Why dost thou shake and tremble thus, thou hand, not good for aught? Why flagrest thou to stab him in, whose sire to spoil hath brought? That punishment which hitherto by pulling out mine eyes thou hast inflicted on me is but as a sacrifice or guerdon due for villainy which I committed have with mother mine. Now, daughter stout, leave of pretences brave, allege no glozes, but with speed let go thy father's hand. Thou mak'st me die a lingering death within this loathed land. Thou think'st I am alive, but I am dead long while ago. To this my hateful corpse at length the rites of burial show. Thou meanest well, I know, but yet therein thou dost offend. Though colour for thy piety I see thou dost pretend. But piety it cannot be to drag thus up and down thy father's corpse unburied through city, field, and town. For he that doth enforce a man against his will to die, and he that stayeth him that would fain die most willingly, are both alike in equal fault and stand in equal plight. To hinder one that would be dead is murdering him outright, yet not so great as the other is. I would be more content to have my death commanded me than from me to be hewed. Desist from this thy purpose, maid. My life and death both are to dispose at my liberty, with choice to spill or spare. I willingly resigned the crown of Theban soil, yet I do still retain upon myself the entire sovereignty. If I may make account of thee as of a trusty fear, and true companion at assays, deliver even here into thy father's hand a sword. But tell me, dost thou reach the sword imbrued in father's blood, wherewith my sons impeach the course of law, possessing it and kingdom all by force? Whereso it is, doubt is there none, but clean without remorse, there be the floodgates opened wide to all licentious lust and thriftless trades. I all my claim therein do rake in dust, and clean forsake. Let both my sons by legacy enjoy the same, wherewith they surely shall contrive no small annoy. For me, pile rather up a stack of wood, set all on fire, that I therein may thrust myself, that is my chief desire, and make an end at once of all this carrion carcass vile. Where is the surging waver sea? Why stay I all this while? Bring me to some steep breakneck fall, bring me where is many flood with swift and horned course doth run, bring me whereas my blood with goring push of savage beasts may out be let at once. To some gulf bring me, where the fallen tide may crush my bones. If needs thou wilt my guide remain, as oft thou dost me tell, bring me that am disposed to die, where Sphinx, that monster, fell, with double shape opposed them that passed by the way, propounding riddles intricate, and after them did slay. Where would I be? That place I seek, Thy father thither bring, into that monster's cabin dire, thy monstrous father fling, that though that monster be dispatched, that place may be supplied with one as bad or worse than he. There will I, far and wide, in terms obscure, report and tell my heavy luckless lot, the mysteries whereof the bearers understandeth not. Give ear to that which I shall speak. Mark thou, Assyrian born, consider this, thou Theban, where Duke Cadmus' men were torn and slain in wood by serpent's rage, where Dirce Seely Trull in humble sort at altar lies, advert my tale at full. Thou that in Lacedaemon dwells, and honour'st Castor's grace, and Pollux eke, two brethren twins, find out this doubtful case. Or thou that dwell'st in Elis town, or by Parnassus hill, or thou that till'st Boeotia ground, there reaping gain at will, hark, listen well, and flatly say, if ever hereto before, that murderous monster Sphinx of Thebes, that men in pieces tore, in all his riddles asked the like, or of so strange a sort? Or whether so insolubly his terms he could report. The son-in-law to grandfather, the rival of his sire, the brother of his little babes, to brethren, father dire, the grandmother at every birth to husband, graceless elf, brought forth a son or daughter, which was nephew to herself. How say you, sirs, in riddle dark, who hath so good insight, that able is the sense hereof to unfold and tell aright? As for myself, although the Sphinx I whilom put to foil, yet mine own heavy destiny I scarcely can assoil. Why dost thou, daughter, labour loose in using further speech? To alter this my stony heart, why dost thou me beseech? I tell thee plain, I fully mean this blood of mine to spill, that long with death hath struggling kept, and thereupon I will descend to dark infernal lake, for this same darkness blind of both mine eyes is nothing such as fact of mine should find. It were my bliss to be in hell in deepest dungeon fast. Now that which should long since have been I will perform at last. I cannot be debarred from death. Wilt thou deny me glaive in sword or knife? Wilt thou no tool for mischief let me have? Wilt thou both watch and ward each way where danger lies in wait? Shall such a sinful caitiff wretch as I be kept so straight? Wilt thou not suffer me with cord to break my hateful neck? Canst thou keep me from poisonous herbs? Hast thou them all at beck? What shall it thee prevail to take for me such earnest care? Death each where is, and ways to death in 1,000 corners are. Herein hath God good order ta'en, that every seely foe may take away another's life, but death he cannot so. I seek not any tool to have. This desperate mind of mine can use the service of my hand, my thread of life to untwine. Now, hand, thy master at a pinch, assist to work his feet, help him with all thy power and strength to exploit his purpose great. I point thee not in this my corpse unto one place alone. Alas, each part of me with guilt is plaunch and overgrown. In whichsoever part thou wilt thy massacre begin, and seek to bring me to my death, which way thou mayest it win. In pieces crush this body, all this heart that harbours sin. Pluck out all my entrails, pull, proceed, and never lin to gash and gut my wizened pipe. My veins asunder scratch, and make the blood come spouting out, or use that other match which heretofore thou used haste. dig where mine eyes erst stood, and let these wounds gush out apace, much mattery filth and blood. Hail out of me this loathed soul that is so hard and stout. And thou, dear Father, lay a stand up and look about. Behold, wherever that thou stand'st, I umpire do thee make, and I a judge of all my plagues that justly here I take. My facts so lewd, so horrible, so loathsome to be told, I never thought with any price or torments manifold could have full expiation. Nay, thought I it enough to die this death, or in one part to be beslashed through. By piecemeal I am well content to suffer torments all, and even by piecemeal for to die, for plagues to plague me call. Exact the punishment that's due. I here most ready stand to satisfy with any death that law and right hand scanned. My former smarts, when as mine eyes I rake it out with paws, were but as tastes of sacrifice, somewhat to help my cause. Come, therefore, Father, near to me, and thrust this hand of mine more nearer into every wound. It swerved and did decline for fear when first it took the essay mine eyes to ransack out. I bear it still in memory. Mine eyes then stared about, and seemed to dissuade the hand from doing of the charge whereto it was enjoined, though, and had commission large. Thou shalt think well that Oedipus dissembleth not a whit, but what his word hath warranted, his deed hath firmly quit. Thy stoutness then was not so great when eyes thou pulledst out, as was thy manhood when thou threwst them from thee round about. Now by those eye holes thrust thy hand into the very brain, that part where death attempted was. Let death be sought again.
And we're going to pause there. I know, I hate to stop you mid-flow, but I thought Lynsey possibly needed to breathe a bit.
Yes.
Well done, everyone. I mean, it's really flowing, actually. I have to say, of many of the Senecan tragedies we've done, this one is flowing the best. I mean, regardless of the fact this is massive speech, it's really coherent. It's telling a story. It's doing things. It's giving the other actor on stage something to react to and needs to react to because it cues in some of what you're saying. Yeah, I'm really actually with this one on the whole. In a way that for some of the others I've sort of gone. Thoughts from the room before we continue this scene. I have paused it mid-scene, and Antigone's about to step in. But Tom.
It's very pictorial. It's incredibly fantastic mood. What am I trying to say? The scenery is massive, and just would be very interesting to see the background that it. You almost don't need the reader on the stage, in a sense. Just an enormous canvas to play off.
Well, it's giving us a sense of the sort of the local geography. I mean, almost all of the mythology that it's throwing in here are directly connected to the city of Thebes or the surrounding area of Thebes. It's not going off on tangents that are geographically far away. So we have Mount Kithyron. We've got the story of the Sphinx is brought in. We've got that general sense of where everything is, and that grounds it quite nicely in a way. It doesn't feel too diffuse in its mythologizing. Rachael.
Yeah, I mean, we get that geography, I think, in from some of these other long, speeches of Greek tragedy. But here, I think it feels a little different because this is a man who's actually traveled about. And also, there's some, I don't know if it's irony, but he hasn't physically seen them. You know, it's so heavy on the imagery, but he's now blind, so it feels like even if he's physically traveled to these places, these are memories in a certain way from when he could see. You know, and then also him bringing it back to the you know, his lack of courage, and now his gaining courage to take his own life, you know, in the change that physically seeing himself do it, or physically seeing death, would frighten him. But now that he can't see, he's telling her all these, you know, he's being quite cruel to his daughter to ask her of these things, but also you know, the I guess helplessness he must feel that he can't bring this about himself, because he can't go and get himself a sword, or he can't do these things unless they're brought to him, unless he has some outside aid.
Any other thoughts before we move on and complete the scene? Or the act, rather. Okay, we stopped mid-flow. Oedipus asking for the possibility of that his own death might actually solve the problems of the kingdom, and Antigone has a response.
Undaunted prince, most noble sire, with humble mind, I sue that I, your daughter, may be bold to use some speech to you, and that you would with patience digest my poor advice. My suit is not to draw your mind to things that erst in price you highly held, nay, to the view of glittering palace old, nay, bravery of your noble realm, scarce able to be told, but that you would these ireful fits, by trace of time now quailed, with patient mind sustain and bear. This virtue never failed in any prince of such a sprite as in your noble grace appeareth bright. It fitteth not that such should once abase themselves as thralls to sorrow's check, or once the conquest yield to adverse hap, or courage lose like dastards in the field. It is no praise, sir, though perhaps you so your reckoning cast, to make of life so small a compt, and thus to be aghast at every wagging of a leaf and cumbersome mischance. No, 'tis virtue in such case high courage to advance, and when things are at worst to show true magnanimity, not like a meacock cowardly at each alarm to flee. He that have tried all fortune's spite, and worldly wealth despised, constantly have borne all brunts that are to be devised, methinks no cause hath why he needs to end his breathing days, or wish himself in grave, for why stark cravens use such ways. But as for him that's drenched in dole and wrapped in carking care, whose pensive plight can be no worse, nor taste of sourer fare, that man hath cause well pleased to be, sith he in safety stands, and pikes hath passed, and now is free from fear of further bans. Put case, the gods would weave the web of further woe to thee. What more can any of them do thy griefs to amplify? Nay, thou thyself, although thou wouldst, can add thereto no more, unless thou think'st thyself to have deserved death therefore. And yet thou art not worthy death. My reason is, because through ignorance thou didst a fact contrary to the laws. And therefore, father, think yourself most guiltless in this place, and, maugre gods, stand on your guard, my counsel sound, embrace. For doubtless you an innocent are deemed and thought to be, and are, indeed. What makes you thus in dumps and doleful glee, to seek your own decay and what cause so great should so enchant your conscience and your wits, to seek your own decay and spoil? What mean faint-hearted fits, that thus in haste you would so fain abandon this your life, and go to hell, where torment dwells and grisly ghosts be rife? You would not see sun, moon, nay star, no more you can. Your eyes are blind. You fain would leave your court and country's miseries. Why, so you may, and so you do. These all are put to sack, that now, alive as well as dead, you feel of these the lack. You flee from mother, wife, and child, you see no man alive. What more can death dispatch away, but life doth now deprive? Your lords, your knights, your courtly train, your kingly state and crown, your grand affairs, your weighty charge is gone and brought adown. From whom, from what, do you thus flee?
From none but from myself, who have a breast full fraught with guilt, who, wretched caitiff elf, have all imbrued my hands with blood. From these apace I flee, and from the heavens and gods therein, and from that villainy which I, most wicked wretch, have wrought. Shall I tread on this ground, or am I worthy so to do, in whom such tricks abound? Am I to have the benefit of any element, of air for breath, of water moist, or earth for nourishment? O slave forlorn, O beastly wretch, O incest monger vile, O varlet most detestable, O peasant full of guile, why do I with polluted fist and bloody paws presume to touch thy chaste and comely hand? I foam, I fret, I fume in hearing any speak to me. Ought I hear any tell, or once of son or father speak, sith I did father quell? Would God it were within my power my senses all to stop. Would God I could these ears of mine even by the stumps to crop. If that might be, then, daughter, I should not have heard thy voice. I, thy sire, that thee begot by most incestuous choice. Begetting of thee makes my crimes more than they were before. Remorse thereof both gnaw and gripe my conscience more and more. Oft times that which mine eyes not see with ears that do I hear, and of my facts aforetime done the inward wound I bear. Why is there stay made of my doom? Why am I spared so long? Why is not this blind head of mine thrown damned ghosts among? Why rest I on the earth and not among infernal sprites? Why pester I the company of any mortal wights? What mischief is there more behind to aggravate my care? My kingdom, parents, children, wit and virtue quailed are. By sturdy storms of froward fate, nothing remained but tears, and they be dried, and eyes be gone. My hardened heart forbears such signs of grace. Leave off, therefore, and make no more ado. A mind so mated with despair no suits will slope unto. I practice some strange punishments agreeing to my deed, but what proportion can be found of plagues unto my meed, whose fortune ever was so bad? I was in sooner born, but seely infant judged I was in pieces to be torn. My mother in whose womb I lay forth had not me yet brought, and yet even then I feared was, and straight my death was sought. Some babes soon after they be born by stroke of death depart, but I, poor soul, before my birth adjudged was to dart of death. Some yet in mother's womb, ere any light they see, do taste the dint of hasty fate, while innocents they be. Apollo by his oracle pronounced sentence dire upon me, being yet unborn, that I unto my sire should beastly parricide commit, and thereupon was I condemned straight by father's doom. My feet were by and by lanced through and through with iron pins. Hanged was I by ye heels upon a tree. My swelling plants the print thereof yet feels. As prey to beasts, cast out also to cram their greedy jaws in Mount Cithaeron, and to fill the griping vultures' maws. Such sauce to taste full like was I, was others heretofore descended of the royal sangue, with smart perforce have bore. But see the chance, I thus condemned by Dan Apollo's hest, and cast to beasts by father's doom, and every way distressed, could find no death. No death on me durst seize his lordly paw, but fled from me as though I had not been within his law. I verified the oracle, with wicked hand I killed mine own dear father, and unawares his guiltless blood I spilled. Shall any satisfaction redeem so vile an act? May any kind of piety purge such a shameful fact? I rested not contented thus. For father being slain, I fell in links of lawless love with mother. Oh, what pain and grudge of mine sustained I there in thinking on the same. To tell our wicked wedlock yoke I loathe, I blush, I shame. I may not well this gear conceal, I'll tell it, out it shall. Though to my shame it much redound, it may augment my thrall. I will display strange villainies, and them in number many, most beast-like parts, most lewd attempts to be abhorred of any. So filthy and so monstrous that sure I think no age will then believe to have been done, so cruel was my rage, that even each cutthroat parricide thereat may be ashamed to hear it named, and with disdain straightways will be inflamed. My hands in father's blood imbrued to father's bed I brought, and have with mother mine, his wife, incestuous practice sought, to mischief adding mischief more, iwis my fault to sire, in slender in comparison, my graceless fond desire could not be stayed, till solemnly the marriage knot was knit twixt me and mother mine. Alas, for want of grace and wit, how plunged am I in mischief still! How is the measure full of horrors vile, which do my mind and heart asunder pull? At least the heap of these my woes might seem to be too scant. My mother, she my wife, that is, young issue doth not want. Can any crime in all the world be more heinous, be surmised? If any may, by wicked imps the same I have devised. My realm and crown I have resigned, which I received as hire, for murdering most unnaturally the king, my lord and sire. Which crown, sorry, which crown now since twixt both my sons hath kindled mortal war, and all the country by the ears remains at deadly tar. I know full well what destinies to this same crown belongs. None without blood the same shall wear, and most accursed wrongs. This mind of mine, who father am, presageth many ills, and gloomy days of slaughter dire, the plot that murder wills. Already is contrived and cast, all truth of word and deed is quite exiled, all promise broke of pacts afore decreed. Eteocles, the one of my sons who now in princely throne beats all the sway, means still to keep the diadem alone. For Polynices, the other son, thus being dispossessed, and kept by force from kingly rule, his humble suit addressed unto the gods this wrong to wreak, this breach of league and oath to avenge and plague. He Argos soil and Greekish cities both persuades to assist him in this war, this quarrel to maintain, that he in Thebes, as promise was, might have his turn to reign. The ruin that to wearied Thebes shall grievously befall, and bring the pompous state thereof adown, shall not be small. Fire, sword, glaive, wounds, and thwacking thumps shall light unto their share, and that ere long, and mischiefs worse, if any worse there are. And this shall hap, that all the world may know it is the race and issue of accursed sire that direigns such a case.
Though other causes none there were to move you, sir, to live, yet is this one sufficient, that you by awe may drive your sons, my brethren, tarring thus to unity and peace. For you, their father only, may their furies cause to cease. You and none else may turn away the occasions of this war. These brain-sick youths from further rage you only may debar. And by this your means the country shall their quiet peace enjoy, and brethren jointly reconciled shall work no more annoy. If therefore you this mortal life thus to yourself deny, you many thousands shall undo, whose states on you rely.
What canst thou make me to believe that any spark of grace or love to sire or honesty in them hath any place, which thirst for one on other's blood, which after kingdoms gape, whose whole delight is villainy, war, murder, guile, and rape? Such hateful imps on mischief set, such wicked termagants, as to be sons of such a sire with shame may wake their vaunts. At one bare word to tell thee all, thy brethren too are bent upon all mischief, weighing not what looseness they frequent. When fling brain rage insots their heads, they care not they a rush upon what devilish vile attempts they give the desperate push. And as they are conceived and born in most abhorred sort, so still devoid of grace they think all villainy but sport. Their father's shame and wretched state moves them no whit at all. To country they no reckoning make what massacre befall. Their minds are ravished with desire ambitiously to reign. I know their drifts and what they hope at length by shifts to gain. And therefore sith the case so stands, I liever had to die with posting speed, while in my house there is none worse than I. Alas, dear daughter, what ado dost thou about me make? Why liest thou prostrate at my knees? Why dost thou travail take to conquer my resolved mind with this thy spiced phrase of fair entreaty? These thy words my flinty heart amaze. Dame Fortune hath none other bait to bring me to her lure than this alone. Till now I still unvanquished did endure. No creature's words but thine alone could pierce this heart of mine. Nay, from a purpose resolute my settled mind untwine. Thou conquer canst the affections fond that in my breast do boil. Thou teachest grace to father's house and zeal to native soil. Each thing to me delightful is which jumpeth with thy will. Command me, daughter, I thy hests am ready to fulfill. Old Oedipus, if thou enjoin, will pass the Aegean sea, and flashing flakes of Etna mount, with mouth he dare essay. He boldly dare object himself to ramping dragon's claw, which raged and swelled and venom spit apace, when as he saw Dan Hercules away to steal his golden apples all in gardens of Hesperides. At thy command he shall his entrails offer unto gob of greedy vulture's bill. At thy command content he is in life to linger still.
And thus ends Act 1. We have essentially continuous action as a messenger is about to arrive and enter to the scene. But yes, you're glad you went and got yourself another glass of water, I can tell. Because it's just this Oedipus spewing forth stuff. Antigone looks like they've got a lot to say, but actually they don't in real terms. Any thoughts before we go on into future stuff with the progression of action? He said. No, are we all just sort of bowled over by the cheerfulness and happiness that this world is presenting us with? The power struggle that's going on with his lower generation, as his children, Polynices and Eteocles, are they're at each other's throats, and bad things are going to happen, or not. Who knows? Rachael.
I mean, it's great poetry, but it's also gives there's also some movement here that, Antigone's on her knees, and it gives you this nice moment of he can't see her, that he's touching her, and he's got to feel her there physically, that it could give us a nice portrait of her on her knees and him holding her face and talking into her face, and that the physical picture it paints between the actors, besides this fantastic imagery that he's painting of all this gore, just how much that physical posture could stand in contrast to all this nasty language.
Liza.
Yeah, I mean, in his last speech, in Oedipus's last speech, there's a sort of clue to physical interaction, saying, "Alas, dear daughter, what ado dost thou about me make? Why liest thou prostrate at my knees? Why dost thou travail take?" So the only way he could figure out where she was is, as Rachael said, through touch. That she's physically preventing him from moving to go and take his own life.
Yeah, and constant, all the way through this, we've had all these little hints of what's physically going on. We don't have any stage directions, but the speeches are giving us stage directions to progress with. Tom, then Rachael.
Yeah, I love the fact that he keeps convulsing into the misery of what's happened, what he's done, and I think it when something like that happens, it just comes over you in waves, and it never goes away. I mean, people who have lost people, just like say, I wake up in the first few moments of the day, I think there might be something there, but then I just get plunged into despair, and it doesn't go away. It doesn't get easier, and I think the text just keeps on with this wonderful sort of like colourful agony, which is great.
Rachael.
Also, there's a part of the text where he says something about I think Antigone's chaste hand, which makes me wonder if she's reached out to stay him from speaking for what he's saying. And I don't know, this just seems so different from some of the other Greek stuff that we've read, because I don't remember even that much like physical action in a way. And I don't know if it's this translation or this specific one that Seneca wrote, but there's so much more coherence, and I think that learning and expanding upon that physical interaction between the actors and what they can be doing on stage, besides just accentuating the poetry and the imagery.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, this sort of collapsing of eras as well. So we're going from a Roman copy of a Greek in translation from the Elizabethan being read now. There's a really interesting sort of telescoping of time that I'm finding interesting. And just on a lighter note, for anyone continuing with our ongoing thwacking thump count, I'm not quite sure how many we've actually got now, but I think we might be approaching double figures across the Senecans. So a lot of thwacking thumping has been going on. At some point I might actually do a proper go through and find out how many thwacking thumps there are. Anyway, Oedipus has stopped speaking for a bit, because as Act 2 opens, a messenger arrives, and later on we will have the arrival of Jocasta. I don't know if Jocasta arrives at the same time or not. There is no specific information on that at this stage, but I think it's just the messenger enters to Oedipus and Antigone.
Renowned prince, of royal race and noble line I sprung, the Thebans dreading much the drift of this your children's throng, and warlike gabble now in hand, most humbly pray your grace, for country's safety down to set some order in this case. They be not the threats and menaces that thus your minds affright. The mischief is more near than so, the enemy is in sight. And Polynices, he that is your younger son of twain, doth claim the crown, and in his turn in Thebes requires to reign. According unto covenants made, which quarrel to decide, he purposeful the dents of sword and martial force abide. With him he brings a mighty troop from every part of Greece. Sir, 7 dukes besieging Thebes are minded it to fleece. Help, noble king, else are we like to perish man and child. This bloody broils of civil war from us protect and shield.
Am I one like to stop the rage of any wicked act? Am I one like to cause these youths to leave their bloody fact? Am I a master like to teach what laws of Jove do mean? Should I not then from former guise digress in nature Elene? They tread their father's steps aright. They play my lawless pranks. Like sire, like sons, like tree, like fruit, I con them hearty thanks. By this I know them for my sons, and praise their towardness. I would they should by peevish parts, whose sons they be, express. Show forth, you you noble gallant imps, what mettled minds you bear. Show forth your deeds, show forth by deeds your valour great. Let lofty sprites appear. Surmount and dim my praises all, eclipse my glory quite. Attempt some enterprise in which your sire may have delight, to have till now remained in life. Hereof I have no doubt, for well I know your practice is strange feats to bring about. Your birth and line from whence you sprung assures me of no less. Such noble bloods must needs achieve some doughty worthiness. Your weapons and artillery for war bring out with speed. Consume with flame your native soil, and desolation breed in every house within the land. A hurly-burly make confusedly of everything, make all the realm to quake, and in exile their days let end, make level with the ground. Each fenced fort and walled town the gods and all confound, and throw their temples on their heads, their images deface, and melt them all, turn upside down, each house in every place. Burn, spoil, make havoc, leave no jot of city free from fire, and let the flame begin his rage within my chamber dire.
Sir, banish these unpatient pangs, let plagues of commonwealth entreat your grace, sith upon you stayeth all their hope and health. Procure your sons to reconcile themselves as brothers ought. Establish peace between them both, let means of love be sought.
O daughter, see and well behold how I to peace am bent, and how to end these garboils all I seem full well content. My mind, I tell thee, swells with ire, within my entrails boils abundant store of choler fell. Such restless rage turmoils my inward soul, that I must yet some greater matter brew, which may the realm enwrap in bale, and cause them all to rue, at which my rash and heady sons have hitherto begun, is nothing in respect of that which must by me be done. This civil war is nothing like to that which I devise. These trifling broils for such a sea of harms cannot suffice. Let brother cut the brother's throat with murderous knife in hand. Yet is not this enough to purge the mischiefs of this land? Some heinous fact unheard of yet, some detestable deed, must practice it be as is to me and mine by fate's decreed. Such custom haunts our cursed race, such guise our house hath caught. My vice incestuous bed requires such pageants to be wrought. To me, your father, weapons reach, myself here let me throde in covert of these queachy woods, and let me be allowed to lurk behind this craggy rock, or else myself to hide on backside of some thick-set hedge, where lying unespied, I hearken may what market folks in passing to and fro do talk, and what the country clowns speak as by way they go. There, saith with eyes I cannot see, with ears yet may I hear, how cruelly my sons by war do one the other tear.
A fortunate and happy dame Agave may be thought, who, though with bloody hands her son to fatal death she brought, and from the shoulders chopped his head, and bore the same about in bloody hand, at Bacchus' feast with all the inspired rout of sacrificers, quartering poor Pentheus' mangled limbs. Though this her cruel fact somewhat her commendation dims, yet even in these her frantic fits she stayed herself in time from further harm, not adding more to aggravate her crime. My guilt were light, if I had not some others guilty made, and yet is this but matter light. I took a viler trade, for mother I am unto those that in all vice excel, and who in most abhorred sins condignly bear the bell. To all my woes and miseries there wanted only this, that I should love my country's foe, who Polynices is. 3 snowy winters past are, and summers 3 be gone, since he an exiled wretch abroad hath led his life in moan, and sought his bread among the fremd, till now compelled perforce. He craves relief of Grekish kings, on him to have remorse. He married half the daughter of Adrastus, who at Bec ruled Argive people, swaying them with awe of princely check. And he, to advance his son-in-law to his most lawful right, hath with him brought from 7 realms a warlike crew to fight. What doom I should in this case give, which side I wish to win, I cannot tell, my mind amazed, yet doubtful rests therein. The one of my sons, as right it is, requires the crown as due. I know it is so accorded was, whose cause is good and true. But in such sort, by force of arms to redemand the same, is ill and most unnatural. Herein he is to blame. What shall I do? What may I say? I mother am to both, and thus my sons at deadly feud to see I am full loath. Without the breach of mother's zeal, I can no way devise. For what good had I wished to the one, thence the other's harm doth rise. But though I love them both alike, yet sure my heart inclines to him that hath the better cause. Though wronged thus, he pines, as one by frowning fortune thrilled from pillar unto post, his credit, country, friends, and wealth, and treasure being lost. The weaker side I will support, and further all I can. Most mercy always should be shown unto the pressed man.
While, madam, you are waymenting here, your heavy plates declare, and waste the time. My lord, your sons in raged battles are, Each captain's bright in armour stands, the trumpet sounds amain, and standard is advanced amid the throng of either train. In marshal's ray, full pressed to fight, stand 7 worthy kings, and each of them a warlike troop of valiant soldiers brings. With courage not behind the best, the Thebans march apace, and like right imps of Cadmus brew to slash at enemy's face. The soldiers' force and willingness on either side to fight appears in that they are nothing less pretend than shameful flight. See how their trampling to and fro the dust to skies doth rear, and what a cloud of smoke in camp the horses make appear. And if my fear dismay me not, it all be true I see. Methinks I view the glittering glaives begorged with blood to be. Methinks I see the vowed thrill and shake their pikes in hand. Methinks I see the Gideons gay and streamers where they stand, wherein is wrought by curious skill a letter all in gold, the scutcheon post, name and arms of every captain bold. Make haste, be gone, dispatch, madam, cause brethren to agree, betwixt them stay this quarrel, lest a slaughter great you see. So shall you of your children love, to each side peace restore, the mother's meditation may heal up all the sore.
Act 3 we go into. So we've Oedipus is sort of nipped so he can hide out of sight. Antigone looks like she exited earlier and is about to run on now. And yeah, we've had this little scenet from Jocasta here, setting out some things. And there's an army. There's an army coming. There's 7 great warriors at least, and that's one of those things because Thebes has 7 gates, in case you didn't know. And they'll probably have 7 defenders because that's how the story goes. So anyway, we'll crack on with Act 3, Antigone, Jocasta, and Nuntius.
Post, post, be gone, and trudge for life. Queen mother, make no stay, that twixt my brothers perfect league and truce continue may. You that be mother to them both, use your authority. Out of their hands their weapons wrest, and make them wars defy. Your bared breasts, which once they sucked, hold out amid their swords. Bear off the brunt of all their blows, or end this war with words.
Thy talk I like, I will be gone. I'll go with might and main. This head of mine I jeopard will, between them to be slain. In thickest throng of all the troops I purposed am to stand, and try what grace or courtesy remains in either bond. If brothers bear malicious minds each other to subdue, let them first on set give on we, and me to death pursue. If either of them be endued with any spark of grace, or nature's laws, or filial awe doth any wit embrace, let him at mother's suit lay down his pikes and glaives of war, and weapons of hostility let him abandon far. And he that cankered stomach bears his brother there to quell, forgetting nature, let him first with me his mother mell. These heady youths from further rage I seely trot will stay. I wittingly will not behold such mischief carry sway. Or if I live to see the same, it shall not be alone.
The standards are displayed in field. The enemies are prone to fall to fight. The clashing noise of weapons hear you may. Much murder, death, and dreadful dole cannot be far away. Their stony hearts go mollify, with sugared terms persuade their wilful minds, O queen, before they furiously invade the one the other. Yonder see how they in armor bright bestir themselves from place to place, O dire and dismal sight. My trickling tears, my blubbering eyes may put you out of doubt that all is true which I have said. Look how all the rout of either part doth slowly march, as loath belike to try by dint of swords so strange a case. but both my brothers hie apace, to grapple force to force and join with handy blows. This day will breathe the bitter smart of ever-during woes.
What whirlwind swift might I procure to bear me through the air? What monstrous sphinx will help, that I were quickly there? Of all the birds, Stymphalides, with wings so huge and large that Thebais rays they shadowed quite, will any take the charge to carry me to yonder place? Would ravenous harpy bird, with ugly talons all with filth, and dirty dung befurred, which hunger staved King Phineas, that had put out the eyes of children his, will at this pinch a mean for me devise, that I aloft may hoisted be, and with all speed be set, where yonder cruel armies to an open field be met.
And you're muted, Tom. We cannot hear you've muted yourself.
Sorry, my computer cut out twice. She runs apace like one of wit, and senses all distract. No arrows swifter out of bow, no ship with sail full thwacked. With wind at will more way can make, with motion such she flies, as gliding star whose leaves do draw a furrowing long in skies. As much aghast she trots apace, and now in camp she stands. Her presence and arrival there hath parted both the bands. At mother great entreaty made, and bloody broil is hushed. And where before with goring glaive the one the other pushed, with full intent to kill and slay, appeased is now their ire, and they well pleased to bend to peace as she doth them require. The sword again is sheathed, is put, that lately out was drawn, to pash out brains a brother's skull. She ceaseth not to fawn upon them both, their strife to stint. Her grey and hoary hairs, her snow white locks with tears bespread, in rueful sort she tears. She mother-like seeks how to link their hearts in one assent. With British tears she wets the cheeks of him that's malcontent. That child that staggering long doth stand, with mothers to dispute, may seem unwilling mind to bear, to yield to mother's suit.
And Act 4, Jocasta encounters her son, Polynices.
Against me only turn the force of wreckful sword and fire. Let all the youths with one accord repay to me that hire, that earned I have by due desert. Let both the gallant band of them that come from Argos soil, and then of Theban land come run upon me all at once. Let neither friend ne foe refrain a whit his bloody blade at this my womb to throw. This womb, wherein I bear these willful brethren here, beget by him that was my son, and ache my wedded fear. Dismember this my body vile, cast all my limbs abroad. I am their mother, child wife throws for them I once abode. You two, my sons, need I to speak, to will you leave your ire? Is't not your parts in such a case to accomplish my desire? Will you not plight the faithful league of true and perfect love? Will you not royally quarrels all at mother's suit remove? That this shall be as I request? Come, give me both your hands, while yet they undistained be, and clean from murder stands. What crime you heretofore have done, against your will it was, and all that spot which stains your same by fortune came to pass. This heinous act, this frantic coil, you can no wise excuse, but wittingly and willingly sound counsel ye refuse. It resteth free within your choice. Of these take which ye list. If peace delight for mother's sake, this brabbling boil untwist. If such a lewd outrage as this more pleasant seem to be, behold, the same and greater too ye may commit on me, who being mother, here oppose myself between you twain. Ere you do one or another kill, I needs must first be slain. Take either therefore quite away this strange ungodly tear, or if you will not, me dispatch, who stay your wished war. Alas, in this my pensive plight, to whom should I direct my piteous plaint, an earnest suit? To whom might I detect mine inward grief and throbbed heart? Which of them were I best to encounter first and fast embrace, to breed my surest rest? I love them both even equally. Affection like I bear to either party, mother fond and partial else I wear. The one of them these 3 years' space hath lived in banishment, but if all covenants may be kept, as at the first was meant, the other now as turn doth fall, must trudge in other while, and learn to know what 'tis to live so long in like exile. We worth this hapless heavy hap, shall I not live the day to see my sons together once in one self place to stay? Shall never I behold them both to better concord bent? Is all affection natural within them both so spent? Then, Polynices, come thou first, embrace thy mother dear, thou that hast travailed many a mile, and languished many a year, that many a storm abidden haste, and many a brunt sustained, and wearied long with sharp exile, from mother's sight been waned. Come unto me, and nearer stand. Put up thy sword again into thy sheath, thy shivering spear, that out of hand so fain would be discharged at brother's throat, within this ground stick fast. This shield of thine lay also down. It makes me sore aghast. It is so big, it will not let this loving breast of mine to join and debonairly meet with that sweet heart of thine. Take off that helmet from thine head, the thong thereof untie, that I thy visage may behold, and all thy face descry. Why dost thou backward turn thy head, and glancest still thine eye, and takest keep of brother's hand for fear of villainy? Thy body all with these mine arms I will defend and hide. If he attempt thy blood to spill, his murderous blade shall glide first through these tender sides of mine. Why stayest thou so amazed? Dost thou distrust to thy mother's love? Thinkest thou her kindness raised?
I fear indeed, distrusting sore, sire, damn, and all my kin, and think that truthless treachery in hearts of all have been. Dame Nature's laws are flung at heel, and naught esteemed be, no faith in kindred planted is, nay, true sincerity, since I by proof have seen and felt what hurly-burly grows betwixt us brethren, and from thence what sea of mischief flows. I may suspect no faster faith in mother to remain. It's not unlike, but she likewise will pranks as bad maintain.
Thy sword in hand fast clasped keep, on head thy bassinet tie, on left arm holds thy target sure, and on thy guard rely. At all points armed prepared stand, all future doubts prevent. Be sure to see thy brother first unarm himself content. And now to thee, Eteocles, some speech I am to use. Thou first wast cause of all this war. Do not therefore refuse down first to lay thy brawling blade, and yield to reason's lore. If name of peace so hateful be, if that thou any more intend'st this war to persecute, in this so savage sort, let mother yet this courtesy from thee, her son, extort, that some small time of trusty truce thou wilt with willing mind consent unto, till I my son, thy brother, most unkind, may after flight go kiss and call. Now first or last of all, will I for peace entreaty make. You men unarmed I call, to listen unto that I say. Thy brother feareth thee, and thou fearest him, and I fear both. But this my fear, you see, is nothing for myself at all, but for the avail of both. Why seem'st thou thy naked sword to put in sheath so loath? Be glad to take the benefit of any little stay. In matters lewd, 'tis wisdom good to stay upon delay. You enter into such a war, wherein he speedeth best that vanquished is. Both of you fear to be by fraud distressed, though practiced means and subtle plots of brothers' spiteful drift, or overteached by policy of some devised shift. But if deceive or be deceived by him that is our friend, we needs must be. In such a case we shall the less offend in suffering wrong than doing harm. But fear thou not a whit. You both from ambushed treacheries your mother will acquit. What say you, sons? Shall this request of mine with you prevail? Or shall I curse my luckless fate and on my fortune rail? And judge your sire an happy man, in that he liveth blind and cannot see the thing which I behold with pensive mind? In coming unto you, did I bring with me this intent, to end these broils? Or did I come to see some dire event? Eteocles, somewhat appeased, hath pitched his spear in ground, and not a weapon blood to shed in hand of his is fond. Now, Polynices, unto thee my former suit I bring. Regard thy mother's mournful plight, and yield the thing that she with tears entreats to have. O son, at length I see, I hold with hands, I kiss with mouth, I touch with joyful glee this face of thine, the sight whereof I wanted have so long, and have more often wished for, than can be told with tongue. Thou hast from native soil been chased to coast of foreign king, and crossed been with trounced forest of frowning fortune's string. Thou many a storm, and many a brunt, and many a foaming sea, and wandering sort and banished guise, didst oftentimes essay. Thy mother at thy spousal feast was absent far away, and could not do such nuptial rites as tell for such a day. Into thy wedding chamber she brought thee, nay yet thy bride, nay yet in solemn sort the house with herbs and odors plied, nay yet did with a riband white the wedding torches tie, as use and custom wills to be at such solemnity. Adrastus, father to thy wife, and father-in-law to thee, with daughter his, hath not defrayed much store of gold, nor fee. No dower hath he bestowed on her. Her wealth was very small, of cities, lands, in revenues he gave her none at all. War is it thou only hadst, by taking her to wife, in lieu of other gifts, he helps to kindle all this strife. Thou son-in-law art unto him, that is our country's foe. Thy native soil thou leavest, and to foreign courts dost go. Thou feedest now at strangers' board, and makest more accompt of new acquaintance got abroad. As though it did surmount the friendship of thy country here, thou art a banished wight, and liv'st in exile, for no fault, but through thy brother's spite. In thee appears resemblance plain of all thy father's fate, in which there lacketh not so much as choice of wedded mate. whom with as ill mischance and hap as ever father's was, thou haste in luckless hour and time of marriage brought to pass. Son, thy mother's only hope, for whom such care I take, whose sight, now after many years, doth me most toyful make, for whom I have full many a time to gods devoutly prayed, whereas indeed thy new return to me may well be said to take away as great a joy and bring as great a grief as it to these mine aged years is comfort and relief. I prostrate at the oracle, besought Apollo's grace to tell me when I should not need to further fear thy case, who flouting this my fond demand, anon did flatly tell, and spake these words, which yet I trow I do remember well. Thou fear'st thy son, least harm he take, as is a mother's guise, but thou, I say, more cause shalt have to fear him otherwise. For if this war unraised had been, I should thy presence lack, and if thou wert not, Theban land might free remain from sack. The sight of thee doth cost us all a hard and nipping price. Yet doth it like thy mother well, so that her sound advice in this one thing thou follow will. Dispatch these armies hence, ever presently, while yet of blood there hath not been expense. So foul a fact to be so near is heinous out of doubt. I shake, I quake to think thereon, in every joint throughout. My hair stands upright even for fear, to brethren thus to see aloof, and ready one to chop at other cruelly. How near was I, poor mother theirs, a bloodier act to have seen, than father blind yet ever saw, or ever yet would ween? And though my fear be overpast, and th' act unbrought to pass, myself yet do I wretched think, that done so near it was. By all the throes for 10 months space, in womb when I thee bare, and for thy sister's sake both twain, which shine in virtue rare, and by those eye holes of thy sire, for which with wreakful paw he pulled his eyes, because unawares he stained nature's law. I thee beseech from Theban walls, send back these armed bands, which threatening all our throats to cut, against our country stands. Yea, though you presently depart, yet are you much to blame, and there is due unto you both a blood of during shame, because this country round about hath pestered been with power, and troops of soldiers stout and brave, it ready to devour. With pensive hearts, a mourning mind, these eyes of ours have seen your prancing coursers with their feet spoil Theban meadows green. We oft have seen your haughty peers in warlike chariot ride, and oft our houses to have brunt with wildfire have been spied. And last of all, an act we saw, which ever to Thebes is strange, to brethren warring mortally, all nature's bonds to change. Each one in the army saw this sight, the people witness be. Your sisters too, and mother I, this all did plainly see. Your father, he may thank himself that he did not behold this lamentable spectacle and havocs manifold. Call now to thy remembrance here thy father Oedipus, whose doom did facts by error done even plague, and punish thus with fire and sword subvert not clean, good son, thy country dear, and Thebes whereof thou wouldst be king, surcease with force to tear. What bedlam pang enchants thy mind? What might thy meaning be? Thou claimst a realm, which to subvert thou givest license free. In seeking thus a country's rule, a country thou destroyest, which thou thine own would make, thou marrest, and as 'twere none annoyest. Hereby thou hinderest much thyself, in it thou makest spoil, and burnest up both corn and grass, and keepest a shameful coil, in chasing men out of their homes. O desperate witless part, what man alive, to waste his own, can thus find in his heart? These things that thou commandest thus by rage of sword and flame to be consumed, and other man thou thinkest doth owe the same. If thus for princely chair you twain by the ears your title try, the state of realm and commonwealth will totter soon awry. Seek it, while yet your country stands unblemished by decay. It is to enjoy, and so to reign I count the better way. Canst thou find it in heart to burn, and spoil these houses brave, the like whereof in all the world besides thou canst not have? Canst thou destroy and ruinate the noble Theban wall, to whose first building stones apace at Dame Amphion's call came dancing of their own accord, through tunes of warbling harp, and crouching themselves in order right upon the turrets sharp, without all help of workman's hand, or pulley up to draw such pieces as most weighty were? Wilt thou by lawless law throw down these worthy monuments? Wilt thou from hence convey and carry with thee all these spoils? Wilt thou such pageants play? Thy father's old acquainted mates? Wilt thou by force surprise and lead as captive where thou goest in proud triumphing wise? Shall these thy cutthroat soldiers drag and hail the mothers old? Shall they, grand matrons tied in chains, from husbands' arms unfold? Shall Theban maids and damsels chaste of fresh and lusty age be mingled with the rascal rout, and hampered be in cage? Shall they as presents forced be in dabbling dirt to toil unto the mincing mistresses and trolls of Argos soil? Shall I thy seedly mother trudge with pinioned hands behind? Shall I this triumph of my child to furnish be assigned? Canst thou with grudgeless mind behold thy country folks a row, slain, mangled, spoiled, and pieces hewed, thus to their deaths to go? Canst thou bring in a deadly foe thy country to subdue? Shall streets of Thebes run all with blood? Shall all ye country rue thy coming home with flame and fire? Hast thou an art so hard, a breast so tipped with flint, a mind to rage so well prepared? If thus thou fare, and swell with ire whiles yet thou art no king, wilt thou be in princely throne if thou shouldst win the ring? Surcease therefore and qualify this outrage of thy mind. Indeed, let all thy country grace and princely mildness find.
Would you me have myself so much to loyal duties yield, that as that I should a pilgrim's life, like wandering beast in field, scared up and down from place to place, without both house and home, and fleeing native soil, be forced in foreign lands to roam? What other plagues could you award in justice unto me, if I my faith or sacred oath had broken caitiffly? Shall I bear all the punishment for that vile villain's guile? And shall he, false deceitful wretch, at my misfortunes smile? Shall he in wealth still flaunt it out and keep this jolly coil? Shall he for sins rewarded be, and I still put to foil? Well, well, go to, be as be may. You bid me wander hence. I am content. Your hard decree to obey is my pretence. But tell me, whither shall I go? Assign me to some place. Belike you would that brother mine should still with shameless face possess my stately palaces and revel in his ruff, and I thereat to hold my peace and not a whit to snuff, but like a country mome to dwell in some poor thatched cot. Allow me, poor exile, such one. I rest content, God wot. You know, such noddies as I am are wont to make exchange of kingdoms for poor thatched cots. Belike this is not strange. Yea, more, I, matched now to a wife of noble line and race, shall like see a seely dottipole live there in servile case, at beck and check of queenly wife, and like a kitchen drudge, shall at Adrastus' lordly heels my wife's own father trudge, from princely port to tumble down into poor servile state, is greatest grief that may betide by doom of frouncing fate.
If that thou gavest so greedily a kingly crown to wear, and that thou canst not rest content, till thou a scepter bear, behold each quarter of the world affordeth kingdom's store. No doubt thou mayst win some of them, if that thou seek therefore. On one side here lies Tmolus mount, the soil bethwacked with vines. There runs Pactolus' noble stream with golden sand and mines. On that side, crooked Meander glides through midst of Phrygian fields. On this side, Hebrus, swift of course, much fruit to Thracian yields. Near thereunto lies Gargarus, renowned each wherefore for corn. And Troyan Xanthus' swelling flood, that prick in price hath borne. There Sestos and Abydos stand in mouth of Ionian sea, which now is called Hellespont, and here and other way are countries which more eastward lie. There Lycia full of creeks and havens strong is situate. These kingdoms he that seeks is like to win. These would I have thee conquer with thy sword. These to win let King Adrast to thee his aid afford. In some of these let him thee make a king. In Thebes as yet suppose thy father Oedipus in seat of king to sit. Thy banishment much better is to thee than this return, sith all thy drift is cruelly to waste, to spoil and burn. Thy banishment reputed is to grow through others' crime. This thy return, in such a sort to kingly state to climb, is ill and faulty every way. This thy warlike crew thou shalt do better realms to seek, where bloody guilt nay grew. Yea, this thy brother, whom thou dost pursue with deadly hate, whose life, whose health, whose house thou dost with curses dire rehate, will aid thee with all power he can. Himself will also go and serve in field for thine avail. 'Gainst him that is thy foe, advance thy power, march boldly forth to take this war in hand, wherein thy parents wish thee good, and will thy helpers stand. A kingdom got mischievously and snatched with grudge of mind, more grievous is than exiles all, of whatsoever kind. Of war, the doubtful hazards all set down before thy sight, and thoroughly weigh than certain chance that longs to martial fight. Though all the power of Greece thou bring thy quarrel to maintain, and though great armed multitudes of soldiers thou retain, yet chance of war still doubtful hangs, and hard it is to know who carry shall the victory, thou or thy vowed foe. Mars to no party tied is, what he decrees shall be. As chance allots, so falls it out. This dome abideth thee, this dome abideth free. Sword, Hope and fear makes equal those, between whom otherwise great odds there is. Blind fortune's lot the case between them tries. Thy rash attempt with crime begone, gropes after doubtful gain, and fond devices enterprised oft reap deserved pain. Admit that all the gods in heaven did further thy request, and to promote thy hot desire both willing were and pressed, yet all thy friends are fled away, and all recoiled back. And soldiers here and there in fields are come to deadly wrack. Although thou joy hereat receive, although the spoils thou take of vanquished brother, yet the palm of victory must slake, and not to thee be given whole. What kind of war, alas, is this, think'st thou? Is not more strange than ever any was? Wherein, if he that victor is, joy therein any whit, most execrable wickedness he doubtless doth commit. This brother thine, whom now so fain thou wouldst bereave a breath, he wis, if he were once dispatched, thou wouldst bewail his death. And therefore make no more ado, but cease from wicked brawl, rid country out of trembling fear, and parents dole forestall.
What shall my brother for this vile and shameful breach of pact go scot-free thus? Shall he receive no guerdon for his fact?
Fear not, my son. He shall be paid, and paid again. I trow he shall be king and reign in Thebes. His pain shall even be so. A pain in grain I warrant him. And if thou doubtful be, let grandsire Liza and thy sire examples be to thee. Sir Cadmus will the same display, and Cadmus' offspring all can witness be that none in Thebes yet reigned without a fall. None yet the Theban scepter swayed, that hath not felt the whip. In promise breach made most of them from regal crown to skip. Now if thou wilt, thou mayst insert within this bedroll here thy brother.
Marry, that I will, in shame hath he no peer, and unto me it seems a world of bliss to be a king and die with kings.
Thy case doth thee in rank of exiles bring. Reign king, but yet a loathed wight unto thy subjects all.
For that I neither reck ne care what shall to me befall. That prince that fears disdainful hate unwilling seems to range. The god that sways the golden globe together hath these twain conjoined and coupled, hate and rule. And him do I suppose to be a noble king indeed, that can supplant his foes and subjects cankered, hate suppress. A king is often stayed from doing many things he would, when subjects' love is weighed. But unto them that do repine to see him sit aloft, he may more rigour boldly show, and pare their pates more oft.
He that will love of subjects win, with clemency must reign. A king that's hated cannot long in kingly seat remain. The kingdom's kings can best describe what precepts needful are. Well thou in cases of exile, for kingdoms take no care.
To be a king, I would engage to force a flaming fire, both country, house, land, wife, and child, to compass my desire. No fee to purchase princely seat, ne labour count I lost. A kingly crown is never dear, whatever price it cost.
And thus ends the play. And yeah, it's an odd one, isn't it? Because in a sense, okay, in theory, yes, there's a sort of battle thing happens. But in real terms, nothing really actually happens. You know, at the beginning, Oedipus comes on and says, bad things are going down, it's all my fault, maybe I should kill myself. And then the sons arrive to do fighty stuff, and the Jocasta sort of says maybe you shouldn't do the fighty stuff, and he says, no, I'm going to do the fighty stuff. And so in that sense, though in theory there is some sort of action that goes on that Antigone reports on, and Jocasta see, they see in the distance. In a sense, this is a play where nothing actually really occurs, but it's all about what you should do about the situation that they're all in at the time, if that makes sense. What's going to happen next, and how can you stop the bad things from happening, and is this course of action a good thing? Liza?
Well, I think the action is that the battle doesn't happen. The action is that the battle is about to happen, and then it's prevented by Jocasta at Antigone's urging.
Well, she pauses it. I mean, it's still so going to happen.
But within the scope of our playing time.
Yeah, absolutely, because Polynices is not having any of it. He's going, no, I quite like the idea of being king. Thank you very much. He's not going to be stopped on that point. But yeah. But otherwise, and sort of once you sort of accept that, what you've got is something quite interesting. I think you have to embrace the inertia, because there is something quite emotional going on here, and there is a family saga going on here, and it's quite interesting how it sort of lays it out. As ever with Seneca, there's a lot of it. And it comes at you. But yeah, if you sort of accept it, I think it sort of wrestles you down to the ground until you accept what it's doing. Thoughts of the room. Lynsey?
Yeah, I just, finally, when I wasn't talking all the time and could actually pay more attention to what I was listening to, there's real characterization in this, which obviously would exist in the original. I would guess, although I have never read the original in its original language or anything. But I was quite struck by how well characterized this is. I wasn't expecting that, so really that's just a kind of little observation, but it was good. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, we have struggled with some, and the level of characterization that we may or may not get. And this one is very, very aware of people in a physical space, in a physical way, which we've talked about already variously. We have, that people are doing things in interesting ways. I'm going to go around the room for final thoughts now. Just generally, I'll go to Rachael first. Any final thoughts?
I really enjoyed this. I know this is our last Seneca, but I hope maybe it could be one of the first that we come back to for a second look, because somebody put in the chat, multiple people put in the chat, that there's no choruses, and I actually enjoy this one. And even though the speeches are so long, there's still this physical touch that happens in this. There's still a physical connectivity between the characters, that they're referring to each other, or they're reaching out to each other and they're touching each other, that makes them seem less long, because there's a destination for an actor to go to, and there's this physical action happening on the stage, and the language is super poetic and super juicy to go into, and you have that family drama playing out in public. There's so many good things happening here, and I think every single role that you could play from this one is really fun. And there's not, even though these speeches are super long again, I don't think there's I don't think you ever hit a wall with them like you do in some of the other ones that we've read.
Yeah, because, I think what they're doing is they've got solid storytelling going on underneath them, and they're not just telling random bits of mythology, or all of the mythology that we've got here is explicitly to do with Thebes and where this situation came from, in a much more clear way. than we've had in some of the others. I also wonder, just in the nature of the translation, it's from the 1580s rather than the 1560s. I wonder whether fashions have changed slightly. There's still, it's still in line with the, shall we say, house style of the previous 9. But it's like, it's possibly like the translator for this one, who hadn't translated any others, Thomas Newton, to fill out the volume, decided, right, we'll keep it within the house style. It's going to have 14ers. And we use some of the sort of language, but it just feels like it's just a little easier. Lines are running into each other. It's not so end stopped. It's there's some really nice elements to this, and it feels like a nice way of rounding off the collection, as it were. Tom, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I thought the length of the speeches just reinforced the characters. I mean, you were genuinely interested with the passion that just bubbled out of the speeches, and as I say, the length of them just reinforced the character and made the character richer, bolder, more alive, more passionate. And it takes a lot to read that, but if you could, and both Rachael and Lynsey jumped in two-footed and made it happen. But the speeches are fascinating because they don't seem long. They seem relevant.
There's very little in those speeches where I'm going, that is padding. There is some repetition in some of Oedipus's stuff about the various ways of doing away with oneself. But no, on the whole, there is a theme, there's an idea, there is a thesis that expands and as the text goes on. Liza, I cut you off a bit earlier. I apologise. Any final thoughts?
Not in the least. Usually long speeches in 14ers make me lose the will to live a bit, or long tragic speeches. But this language is dynamic enough that it works. It flows. I like all the different verbs for movement. Just in the first speech, we've got I'll trudge and run, I'll scud and range. And I notice at the end the author mentions Cheshire. Is he from Cheshire? Rob, do you have that information?
I don't know, but I can open a book and see if I have that data lying around.
Yeah, because some northernness in the English is a fun thing to think about. That Cheshire is where, much earlier, it's where a lot of the most interesting medieval poetry comes from, we think. Or Cheshire or thereabouts.
Sadly, the only data I have is that he translated Seneca to the book I have in hand.
Self-evidently, yes. But it's refined. It's not, but I like its energy.
And I think energy is what you desperately need for this kind of gig. Lynsey, several glasses of water later. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, no, I enjoyed reading it and I enjoyed listening to it. And I think it has got a sort of very strong forward propulsion, which, offsets the length of the speeches and sort of what everyone else has been saying. I really liked a lot of the language and I think it'd be interesting. It would be interesting. I haven't been around for all the Senecas, but this is a definite improvement on the other one or ones that I have been around for. So I liked it a lot. I might Yeah, I think maybe some cuts could take place, or perhaps some, if appropriate, some line sharing between, say, Oedipus and Antigone in that first act, just to sort of balance it a bit more, might be worth looking at. But yeah, no, good stuff. Good stuff, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's a Herculean effort, which is ironic because it doesn't feature Hercules, because it's only got 5 actors in it, explicitly. Nuntius is a bit of a bit part. The others are, Antigone and Polynices are on a lot and say a reasonable amount, but otherwise most of the heavy lifting is Oedipus and Jocasta, who do a huge amount of text, and it's just physically doing that is actually quite exhausting. And yeah, so cuts, if only just to keep the cast alive. This might be necessary. Sod the audience. Let's just worry about workers' rights here. So all that remains, unless anyone has any additional final thoughts to throw in, I will close the session on this last of our Senecas. All that remains to thank all the wonderful readers for all their wonderful reading. Thank you very much, and goodbye. Oh, incest monger vile.